everybody, it's Christy from Funky Chunk Inspiration, and we are doing a fun patriotic playlist. So anyway, I'm taking this little box that I made, kind of made it look like it's a purse. It's kind of at angles and stuff like that, and I already had it stained red with Minwax water-based stain. I love to use the Minwax stain because you don't have to worry about your rags and all that kind of stuff. And you can also have it mixed in about 200 different colors. So make sure you check that out sometime. So anyway, so the ends down here, I'm just painting dark blue. And this is navy blue. I believe it's by Folk Art. And we're putting that on there and I'm getting it dry. I could have just stained the ends dark blue, but I had already gone over the whole thing with the red, so I decided that I would just use paint so that it was a little bit darker. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to put some stripes over here on the sides. So I am just measuring that off with my tape, and I'm using the little spacers to get my stripes as straight as possible. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some white paint and a paintbrush, and I wanted to make sure that that tape is pushed down really good along the edges so that I have a nice crisp line across there. And I don't want to brush up towards the paint. I want to brush away from the paint. Same thing with my sides so that I don't get paint under the paint, or under the tape, or, you know, on the sides of my project. Also, another good tip when you're using tape is to make sure you go ahead and pull the tape off when your paint is still a little bit wet. Don't wait till it gets dry because that can cause it to peel off of your project. Now, being frugal, I am saving the tape and using the tape over again. So, you know, you don't have to do that. You could use new tape if you want to, but there was nothing wrong with that. And so I just went ahead and did that there. So anyway, so I'm just getting these stripes put on here, and then I'm going to pull this tape off here in just a second. I put a couple coats on just to cover that red a little bit better, and then we're going to get that good and dry because eventually I'm going to sand it a little bit. Okay, so now I'm just touching up the blue on the edge where I got a little bit of white on. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my stencil brush out, and less is best when you're stenciling. I'm going to take my star stencil here, and we are going to put stars on the ends over the navy blue. Now remember, I just painted this, so that paint is not cured even though it's dry. So you need to go over your stars when you're stenciling like that, because you're going to reactivate that darker color underneath there. Now, if you want really bright white stars, the best thing to do would be to do 1 or 2 coats of the white paint, and they'll be really bright white. I'm not going for that. I'm going more of a grunge look, so it really doesn't matter right here. So, but you can reactivate that paint underneath, so you need to be careful and don't keep going over it, getting it wet again. But if you'd let it cure, it would be a lot easier to do. Okay, so now I'm just going to tape my sander here. I'm going to sand this a little bit just to get the edges where the paint is sticking up there a little bit. Now, my sander has a bunch of white paint on it, so it kind of made it look like it smeared a little bit. It didn't. It's just my sander. I need to get some new sanding pads for my sander. So now I'm just going to take this Valspar Antiquing Glaze. They do not make this anymore. Valspar was bought out, I think, by Pittsburgh, and they discontinued this product, and I have just a little bit left, and I absolutely love it. I haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to use to replace it, but it is my favorite antiquing glaze to make stuff look kind of grungy and stuff like that. As you can see here, what's nice about it too, it is water-based, so if you would get it on something, you can wipe it off, but you can also, if you put it on too dark, you could go over it with a you know, just a wet paper towel and lighten it up a little bit. Okay, so now here I am. I'm going to put this piece of material. I just ripped it, I don't know, probably 1 inch wide, and I'm just trying to stick it through the holes. I didn't make my holes very big. Probably ought to make the holes a little bit bigger, but I was a little bit on the struggle bus getting it through there, but I eventually get them through there and tie them. Now you can go either way, where the knots are on the inside or the knots are on the outside. I kind of like the idea of the little straps coming to the outside, because what I'm thinking I can use this for is to put on my tables and stuff when I'm doing like picnics or whatever, and we could have our condiments in here, like our ketchup and our mustard in there, or I could put our glasses in there, cups or whatever I think I want to put in there. So I just did those to the outside. I just like that look. Okay. Today's playlist is Americana, a DIY collaboration. Our hosts are Make All Things With Me and Farmhouse Stencils, with guest host Tracy's Crafty Creations. Make sure you go check those guys out. Make sure you watch the entire playlist. Playlist link is in my description. I'm sure you'll get completely inspired. Okay, on to the next one. I have this little caddy here. At one point, I had made a bunch of these at Christmas time, and it had hot cocoa on the side. And what I did was I put a couple of cups in there, and I had made this like a cocoa caddy and stuff. But this one I had left, so I sanded off the word hot cocoa and decided to make it to be an Americana piece to kind of match our little purse that we did. Okay, so I kind of painted the sides there red, and now I'm working on the end pieces, and I'm painting them the navy blue also. I do end up painting the inside of this cocoa caddy and all that kind of stuff. So, and putting the stars on the end, so it'll kind of match our other little caddy. What this will be good for is, I was thinking kind of like putting those little galvanized cans that you could put, little galvanized bucket type things in there, and you could put your silverware, your plates in there, things like that. Or it could be something for, your condiments or something like that. Or, you know what? It would be beautiful with some flowers. I think some of the red, white, and blue flowers for the 4th of July and Memorial Day would be absolutely beautiful having this sit there. I am a big Raggedy Ann and Andy fan, and I do have a few Raggedy Ann and Andys sitting around my house, and so this will probably sit on the floor next to a couple of my Raggedy Ann and Andys, and I may put a couple other smaller ones inside. I haven't decided yet for sure, but I will have it available that I can use it whenever we might want to take it out to our pool area or something like that to carry stuff out. I just think it's kind of a neat little caddy to have. Or you could use it as a toolbox if you wanted to. It could be used for anything. So again, I'm going to put stars on the end. Same thing as we did on the smaller project. I'm just going to put those on there. Less is best when you're stenciling. Always make sure that you offload, 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 offload. When you're putting paint on your brush, you want your paint up in your bristles, not sitting on the end. It's also a good idea to sit out a little rag and just to make sure you got most of that wet paint off of there. It's better to do multiple coats than to try to do everything in one single coat, and that's when you get your bleed through and stuff like that. Now, I will tell you this. If you get a little bleed through, there's no reason to panic. Your project is not ruined or whatever, especially if you're going to kind of grunge a project up. You can sand a lot of that off. You can also wait till it dries and take you a little X-Acto knife, and you can kind of pick at that a little bit, or even a little paintbrush, and get your areas that you got the bleed through fixed or whatever. But just always remember, it is just paint. You can always sand it off, start over, paint it again, whatever you want to do. Now, I was trying to decide here, do I want to put stripes on the side or not? And then I decided, yes, I'm going to put stripes on the side. Now, I way overkilled putting these stripes on. I don't know why I didn't just use 2 pieces of tape as spacers and go across there. But no, I had to get the ruler out to make sure that they were even and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. Sometimes I wonder about myself. But anyway, so we're just mainly going to put one white stripe right down the center of that. And I'm just checking to make sure that they're good. Make sure I push that down real good once again. Now, I decided to use my stencil brush here. And after I got done, using the stencil brush, I decided to go to my paintbrush. When you're using a stencil brush, because your bristles are a lot stiffer, it's really pushing the paint down. So, which is what you want when you're working on a stencil. So it doesn't give it a real even coat of paint. And when you're covering a big area like this, you can really see the stencil marks. Now, multiple coats will fix that, but I don't have time for multiple coats, right? We want to get it done. So I decided to use the paintbrush. Now, I was just very careful, like I was on the last project, to make sure that I didn't go underneath the tape or anything like that. So now here I am doing the other side, and I had all kinds of trouble because I was wanting to reuse my tape and decided to give up and just get a brand new piece of tape out. I was just, having a moment. I edited most of that out, but anyway, you'll have days like that. I did these projects on two different days. You do something and sometimes you do it completely different the next time you do it. So anyway, so we're just putting this stripe on this side right here. I love how this project turns out. Now, you will notice I did not paint the whole thing. As soon as I get this stripe on, I look at the project and I decide, you know what, I do want to go ahead and paint it with the bright red paint rather than just leaving it the stain color. I think the handle was just a different color, and then I went ahead and did the inside because I figured you were going to be able to see the inside of the project too. So just so that it all matches, we want to be a little bit matchy-matchy, not completely matchy-matchy, but just a little bit matchy-matchy. So anyway, so here I am painting the inside. We'll get that done. Then I'm going to get that Valspar antiquing glaze back out again, and I am going to antique this whole thing, and it's going to kind of match the other project there. And I really, really liked how these two projects came out. I think that they are perfectly Americana, patriotic, whatever word you want to use. Now, I want to say this. You want to be careful using the antique wax or anything that you're, again, reactivating that paint, because red really likes to bleed. So it's kind of smart to go over the red part, get a new part on your rag, then go over the white part, etc., etc., etc. That way you don't turn your white pink or something like that. It's not real bad, but it can do that. Here is the final reveal of the two projects, and I got them sitting right there next to Annie underneath my sofa table. I really like how it looks. I want to thank my hosts again. I would love it if you'd subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to hit that bell so that you get notifications when I have a new video up. And again, I'm Christy from Funky Junk Inspiration. Bye-bye.